hundreds and hundreds of thousands of youngsters hopefully are delighted with their results. But it actually goes to the heart of the future that young people take at that crucial age of 16 to 18. And I remember my first job was in the world of construction. Yes, I was digging trenches with a groundworks contractor in about 1983, I think it was. And it was to the heart of me. My background is construction, so talking about apprenticeships, talking about trades in a business that has done so well, that has grown so successfully, goes absolutely to sort of the heart of who I am, who we are as a political party. And there is nothing more important than ensuring that young people have the full range of options, and apprenticeships are critical, absolutely critical to that. Back in the 80s, we used to call it sort of YTS, youth training schemes, and it was the heart of businesses, of communities and families. And I just feel, in a sense, that we've slightly lost our way, and that's why what we're announcing today is so critically important. And you'll hear a lot from politicians about young people, about apprenticeships, but the evidence is truly, truly shocking about what's happened in the last 10 to 15 years. And the really key statistic that shocks me is that the number of apprenticeships aged between 16 and 18 has fallen by about a half, from about 40% to around 20% in the last 7 to 8 years. That is actually nothing short of a scandal, because it's literally where apprenticeships should start. In particular, in trades and skills, what they call intermediate apprenticeships, again, that percentage has collapsed. That's exactly the wrong place and space of where it should be. So what we're announcing today is the reverse of that. It is a clear sign to everybody that not only must we make work pay. Earlier this week we talked about making welfare work, but actually work is a great thing. Skills are a great thing, trades are a great thing. It was wonderful meeting some of the apprenticeships that have been working in Kevin McLaughlin's firm here this morning. And so I think everybody should be under no doubt whatsoever. We are 120% focused on making sure we've got the right apprenticeship schemes, the right opportunities for young people. Because so often, actually, many youngsters, they get their GCSE results and they say, do you know what, actually, maths in a classroom's not for me. What are the other options out there? And the options of going to work in a trade as an apprenticeship is a fantastic one. And of course, in the world of AI, actually, it's a long time before AI and robots go onto construction sites, painting, decorating, plumbing, bricklaying, and the like. That's why this really is the very heart. So, with no further ado, delighted to welcome the boss, the founder of McLaughlin Painting and Decorating, Kevin McLaughlin. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm just going to talk about my life story. I left school at 15. I was the last year that could leave at 15, 4 years. How it was, I didn't want to stay at school. I didn't like school. I know now I could have done well at school, but it wasn't for me. I've only had 2 jobs in my life. I then went into an apprenticeship. It took me 4 years, 2 years craft, 2 years advanced craft. I then worked for a while, and in 1987 I started my business. We've gone from nothing to a company that works around the country, delivering hotels, stadiums, even interior design work, a complete mix of everything. And no matter where you go in life now, you look at anything, it's painted. So there's always going to be work. I started my own business in 1987. The workforce 2, then 4, then 6. And after about 3 or 4 years, I realised there's an age gap developing here. The youngest person is 27, 28. So I started my apprenticeship scheme based upon apprentices, my apprenticeship. Since then, we've had apprentices every year, on average 3 to 5 a year. Totally successful, up until, funny enough, to 7 years ago that you talk about. And then it all started to go wrong. The apprentices wasn't achieving. They were leaving school without the correct qualifications, and the qualification you need is basically literacy and numeracy. And that is a real effect on business, because the government then put a need onto companies to teach their kids maths and English. Now, I pay tax, incredible tax for me, and I pay for education, and I can't see how children can go to school and after 8, 9 years come out and they can barely read and write. And that has an effect on business. And I think you're seeing the results now of everything that goes on. Now, we as a business, we need people. We only make money for people. Every penny that this business earns is at the end of a paintbrush. And that paintbrush is being held by a person. So it's imperative to have people. So apprenticeship is the only route. It's the only route for us to train people. We train them to the systems of our business, and they make us money, and they make money. I'm very proud that our very first apprentice is now a senior contracts manager in Australia. He got on in life, and a lot of our apprentices do. And an apprenticeship route, for me personally, my family, has been incredible. It's made me something that, coming from a council estate in Islington, that I thought I could never do. And that was just by giving a chance. And this country and this industry, especially at the higher tier 1 level, and we work on some very big jobs and some very small jobs, they do not encourage companies to take apprentices. They talk it, they talk the talk, they do not deliver. They do not assist. So why would you employ a company that doesn't invest in their business? And that is one of the reasons why you've got such a big drop-off. And we have a 2-tier system. To have an apprentice, you have to employ them. You have to give them the holidays, sick pay, and why not? Because that's what work's about. These companies in our industry, there's too many umbrella companies, there's too many people who do not want to employ, do not want the responsibility to employ, and that must change, because that way, if you go back to when I started work, every business had apprentices, because it was natural. Everybody trained. Could you imagine a football club without apprentices? Could you imagine a hospital without apprentices? So it's imperative, and this, to me, is really good that it gets it. And what a shortage of people creates an unbalance in wages. And once you're paying too much for something, that because there's not enough people to do it, and with a ready workforce, with so many people unemployed or sitting at home neat, that it needs to be encouraged. And what I've read here, if it works, will be phenomenal, and it'll balance the field. We need an equal playing field for all businesses, not the big boys dominating, because it is mainly SMEs who deliver the training and expertise for the apprentices. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, for that rousing call to arms, because what Kevin represents, what McLaughlin's represents, what those young apprentices that I've met this morning represent is the future of Britain, and we need to rebuild Britain. So I want to thank all of you for coming to Enfield today. And Kevin, your support for what Reform is announcing today is really meaningful, because for so long, Westminster has ignored places like this, companies like Kevin's, and apprentices like those who have worked here. People like Kevin and his business represent a different Britain, a Britain hidden from the media and the political class, a better Britain. And it's a window into a world that we can be. And it was important for me to be here today to show what Reform represents and who we as a party are for. We are for the workers. We are for those people who wake up early every morning and graft their socks off all day and get home late at night. We're for that young, hungry, ambitious person who may have got their GCSE results today and has big dreams. We're for those who want to move forward, who want to earn, who want to learn, who want to rebuild our great country. We're for the self-starters, the risk-takers, and those who are not content to sit back and slip into dependency. We're for those who want to get out there and make a living. We're for those who want to take responsibility, and they take pride in their craft and in their skill. That's who Reform is for, and that's why we are here today. Kevin, as he said, left school with no O-levels, but he did something amazing. He became an apprentice. And from that decision back then. He is now employing over 70 people, running his own successful business, which has worked on major projects, including the Olympics and other big commercial developments right across the country. His business represents more of what we need in the UK: construction workers, surveyors, painters and decorators like those we've met today, powered by the energy of young apprentices who are gaining skills, who are earning a wage, and who are setting themselves up for life in a thriving sector which presents them with huge opportunity to progress. And that is why Britain needs apprentices. Firstly, we have a needs crisis. There are over 1 million young people who are not in education, who are not in employment, and who are not in training. That's 1 million young people not earning and not learning. It's a travesty and, quite frankly, a betrayal of the next generation. Today, about a third of those young people getting their GCSE results will have failed to pass English or maths. That's about 200,000. And that data, and the data also shows that those children who fail Key Stage 2 are more likely to end up on benefits. That costs the taxpayer £8 billion a year. We can't go on like that. Secondly, we've got too many young people who are failing in our universities because they're falling for the great university scam, signing up to £50,000 worth of debt, possibly the largest financial commitment they will have ever made in their lives at 18. For what? To study pointless subjects at mediocre universities. I've lost count of the number of businesses who tell me graduates come to them and they don't even know how to turn on the photocopier or work the kettle. The Blairite obsession with sending 50% of our young people into universities has left a generation of young people trapped by debt because they were funneled through a system that prizes university over skills. And it's left our labour market depleted and reliant on cheap foreign labour. The British taxpayer has been out of pocket to the tune of hundreds of billions of pounds worth of student debt that will have to be written off. Too many of our universities have become more interested in indoctrinating DEI than actually producing graduates who are ready for the workplace. So we also have an excessive number of graduates with qualifications that don't match the skills needed for our country. That's reflected by the number 700,000. 700,000 of our graduates are unemployed today. 400,000 of them are on welfare. For many, university just isn't worth it anymore. And thirdly, we have a severe labour market shortage in our economy. Construction, manufacturing, utilities, health and social care, they all need hundreds of thousands of people. Manufacturing apprentices are down 40%. Painting and decorating are down 60%. Health and social care starts for new apprentices are down 75%. The National House Building Confederation says that construction will need 900,000 workers to build and deliver the major house building programmes that are in the pipeline. Successive governments have instead relied on cheap foreign labour to plug these gaps, contributing to our immigration crisis. Now, as you know, as Home Secretary, I tried valiantly to restrict and lower the number of work visas, but I wasn't successful in persuading my Conservative colleagues to do that when it was the right time. That's why today we are rebalancing the scales and we are firing the starting gun on unleashing a technical and vocational renaissance of homegrown skills. Reform will not do this because it fills us with some jingoistic pride, but because we will do what it takes to save Britain from the perpetual doom loop of decline, debt and despair that we are currently in. Britain used to be a nation that built things, that made things. We used to be a nation of inventors, whether it's ships, shoes, trains, textiles, cars. We have a proud technical and vocational heritage. The Industrial Revolution itself was powered by apprenticeships. Josiah Wedgwood, who led the potteries, Matthew Murray, who designed Salamanca, the first steam locomotive, George Stephenson, the father of our railways, Richard Tice, the godfather of our building renaissance, were all apprentices. Even Brunel, after he went to university, was mostly trained as an apprentice to his father. So we've got that tradition, we've got that DNA, but we haven't tapped into it. Masters and apprentices working together with young workers, learning a job and developing their skills at the same time. Ordinary people, teaching ordinary people a trade to make them spectacular. Hand to hand, generation to generation. And Britain was better for it. Our apprentices helped build the modern world. They turned us from a nation of farmland into the workshop of the world. Horrifyingly, however, over successive decades and by consecutive governments, that proud heritage has been obliterated. Almost 40% of young people head to university and just 1% into technical education. So, the Britain that Reform UK wants to build, that alternative Britain, is now no more than a foggy memory, and some of us are unsure whether it really existed. Because today, the British families who made our country great are the most disadvantaged in society. White British children are now the most likely group to not even enter GCSE exams. White working class boys are the group with the worst educational outcomes. This two-tier system of unfairness running throughout our educational system is deeply unfair and a grotesque waste of human talent. So, that is why we are announcing today the apprenticeships wage credit. And this is going to build our skills revolution. We've morphed from a rich nation that made and did things into a poor nation that with faceless corporates and shiny glass offices. We need a revolution. So our apprenticeships wage credit will offer a wage credit of worth 30% to every small or medium-sized business that hires a new young apprentice. This will save the average business over £8,000 on the cost of employing a young apprentice. It is a 30% cut for businesses taking on an apprentice. It's a significant amount. It's over £4,000 a year. Why not 5? Why not 10? Why not 20? Because we realise that to completely revamp the mindset of this country into the skills revolution that we need, the government will lead from the front. That is why we will reimburse each business 30% of the wages when they take on a young apprentice. In doing so, a reform government is investing 30% into each young person's success. We're saying to young people, if you want to work in a trade or a vocation that benefits the UK economy, if you want to avoid the rip-off degrees, then we will back you. We want a stake in your future, and we support you. Because I no longer want to live in a Britain that looks down on plumbers and carpenters and painters and decorators or care workers. I want them to be celebrated like they are in other countries. To those young apprentices that I've met today with Richard, I want to applaud you and salute you. You're role models. You're earning, you're learning, you're moving forward with your lives, and you're taking responsibility. There's no limit to what you can achieve with your work ethic and energy, and you represent what the best is of this country. Get yourself a trade, earn hundreds of pounds a day for yourself, move forward, maybe start a business in the future. That's what we want to see, a high-skilled British workforce taking pride in their work, not wasting their life chasing pointless degrees and getting crippled by debt. And when you think reform might be finished and that we haven't, that we've stopped, well, we haven't, and we will go even further. Many SMEs are hesitant about taking on an apprentice because they're nervous about the risk. They're nervous that when they pay the wage and they spend the time, Many of them will just leave. So not only will we invest a 30% stake in a young apprentice's wages at the beginning of their training, but we will also introduce an apprenticeships retention bonus. Alongside the cut of hiring an apprentice, cutting the cost of employing an apprentice by £8,000 will give apprentices themselves a retention bonus. £2,000 to apprentices who show loyalty and stay with the business that trained them for at least 2 years after they complete their apprenticeship. Young people starting their careers will be incentivised to stay with a direct cash bonus, tax-free, paid straight into their bank account. The bonus demonstrates that we are serious about backing good, responsible SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises, employers who want to invest in young British talent. It shows that if we are to generate the skills revolution that we need, Reform UK will back young people right at the start of their careers. Combined, this is over £10,000 that a Reform UK government is willing to put into each apprentice at the start of their working lives. So my advice to those young people today getting their results, my advice to those grandparents and those parents looking at the young people in their families who may be getting their results today, be careful. Don't get ripped off by the great university scam. Don't waste your time studying for a pointless degree at a mediocre university. If you want to work hard, if you want to move forward, earn a wage and have opportunities in your life, take up and look for apprentices. And a Reform UK government will ensure that those opportunities exist. Your success is our country's success. We're on your side. And when I said I wanted a skills revolution, I meant it. Thank you.